See, yesterday we had discussed till this, right? About data types, constants, and then variables, keywords, and then operators. We had a good session on operators, and what did we do? We had a working session with the operators, and we have seen how this operator work, like relational operators, and then logical operators, and then uh, arithmetic operators. All this. So now, after understanding all this, the next thing we need to understand here is today we need to start with this control statements. So maybe we can start from here, control statements. So because this is the next topic what we have in Python. Okay. So what is control statement and why do we need control statements? So that we need to understand. We'll start from here today. And if you want a quick recap or something, maybe you can go through the video I have already shared in the group. Okay. So now, what is a control statement? See, as control statement says, like it controls execution flow of a program. Generally, when you write a program, uh, let me open this PyCharm. Let me see if this is recording or not. Okay, it's getting recorded. Yes. Excuse me. So just a minute. Let this PyCharm open. I'm just opening the PyCharm. If you see this program, so look at this. If you look at this, this is a normal program. So we don't have any control statements inside this. Control statements in sense like any if else or any for loop or while loop. All this we call control statements. But here in this program, we don't have anything like that. So the point is simply this program has a line by line execution. What it has a line by line execution. Okay. So now sometimes what happens is we need to check some certain values, validate certain values. Sometimes we need to iterate certain values. So in that case, this kind of program is not going to help us. We have to introduce these control statements. What this control statement does is they control the execution flow of a program. And among that, we have, if you talk about control statements, we have decision making statements and loops here. So if you talk about it, what do we have in Python? One is a decision making statements. That is one thing. Second thing, we have loops. In this decision making, again, we have if statement, then if else statement, and then elif statement. So these are all three different types of statements we have what we have in decision making statements. Okay, if you go to the loops here, like in Java, C, CPP, we don't have switch case in Python. There is no switch case. Understand? Okay, we don't have any switch case. Second thing, we have while loop, and you don't have do while here, and then for loop. That's all. So we have just two loops in Python: a normal while loop and a sophisticated for loop. For loop is even not like in C, CPP, Java. This is something special for loop. Okay, which works with a range of values, a collection of values. That's right. Not like a regular one. Of course, you can apply it, but it is a little bit different and very simple to use in Python. So these are all control statements what we have in Python. You can see here, right? Decision making statements and then loops. Again, in that loops, we have just while and for. We don't have do while and no. We don't have do while and switch statements. So what is the note here? Note is no do while and no switch. Okay. You have this is about this. No do while and no switch. Like in C, C++, Java, or C Sharp. If you are a traditional C programmer or CPP or Java or C Sharp, then remember we don't have these two in Python. We have only while and for, and then we have this decision making statements. That's our thing. Okay. Now, what is decision making statement? Let's start from here. Okay. What is decision making? Excuse me. So, decision making statement is whether condition is true or false. What it does, it checks whether a condition is true or false. And we have two types of decision making statements here. Okay. Of course, not just two. Maybe we can categorize into three types. If statement, again we have discussed, right? If else and elif statement. We can categorize this into three types. Of course, all are almost same. See, if or if else or elif, everything starts with if only. So we'll go one by one. So let's see here. I don't know why I put we have to. Let me remove this. This is not needed. Now let's talk about if statement here. So what is if here? If checks whether a condition is true or false. So first one is what? Generally decision making statements checks you have a condition, right? Yesterday we had discussed while discussing this relational operators and logical operators. To check any condition, we need these decision making statements. And one if is one such very popular decision making statement. And it checks whether a condition is true or false. And here the syntax look like this. If this is for Python 2.x. Of course, we don't use much of 2.x. Generally, we prefer to use Python 3.x. Okay, but if it is 2.x, there are two kinds of versions, Python versions coming from 2.x and coming from 3.x. But you can ignore 2.x. But you can have a quick idea if you wish to have some understanding. So what is that here? When you talk about if it checks whether condition is true or false, that is fine. Okay. If condition is true, then the block executes. Else, if condition is false, execution of block is skipped. Now, if you see here, this is the syntax of if here. And if space condition, you don't need brackets in 2.1. You don't need brackets, but in 3.x, you need a bracket. And then under that, you have to put statements. And here, if you see, something is very important, what we call indentation. See, in Python, you don't have opening braces and closing braces. So this basic is very important. Initially, like long back, when I started Python, I used to get confused for this indentation, like this opening and bracing and closing braces. But once I got some clarity, then I felt this is the much more easier than normal traditional languages. Okay. So what is indentation here? Instead of blocks, you have indents. You don't have opening braces and closing braces. What is that team? No opening braces and closing braces. All that blocks. Like if it is a traditional Java program, it looks like this. What is that? Something like class test. Okay. And then, okay, let me just show you. It will be something like public. You can see here for class, we are opening a processor here. You can see opening processor and closing processor. And then public static void main and then string args array and then again a block. So if I want main needs a block here. So again in this, if I want to check some if some a greater than b, again I need a block for this something like this. So whenever if you want to create a block in traditional languages like Java, C, C++, or C Sharp or something like this, we need a block. What is that? We need a block like this. What is block? Group of statements. If you want to declare a group of statements as a unit, then this block is needed. So under this, you add some statements. Okay, here you add some statements. Okay, so that is fine. This is the structure of a simple traditional Java program. But in Python, you don't have this opening and closing braces. All these things, all these blocks, you have to manage with something called as, what shall we say, indentation. What is indentation? Nothing but you can see here, this is the syntax of 2x and 3x. I will talk more about it. But before that, so once you say if condition, if you want to create the if block, some statements under if, what you should do is you should leave some space from the beginning of this if usually it is a tab space. What is that? Usually it is a tab space or at least one space is needed, but recommended is tab. If you put even one space, it is enough. Means you are pushing one space inside to the if block. That is indentation. So all that statements which you want to be part of if statement, you just push them into the if block. Don't put under if block directly, but push them by one space or two spaces, three spaces, four spaces into the if condition. Minimum is one. After that, how much is it's up to you. But all statements has to be indentated with the same space. Again, one statement with one space, another statement with say two spaces, another statement with three spaces. Don't do that. All statements which you want to be part of if block has to be indented with the same indentation. Okay, has to be indented with same number of spaces. Otherwise, you get an error. Anyhow, you'll see that. But this is syntax for 2.x. What if does here? It checks a condition. So here we don't have any brackets. It's not needed in 2.x. And it checks this condition. If this is true, the block under this if gets executed. If this is false, the block under this if gets skipped. Coming to our syntax 3.x, we have brackets added here, like in 2.x. So I don't think we can directly do without brackets. Anyhow, we'll test it now. So if condition, okay, same thing, but we are adding brackets in 3.x of Python version. We put statements with indentation. Remember about indentation. You have to get some good picture about this indentation. So, and then statements. If this condition is true, the statements under this if block gets executed or the block of if gets executed, else it is skipped. So this is how this decision making statement works in Python. Of course, the execution flow is same for all languages. Okay, except the indentation part. So now, why don't we just quickly try few simple examples? Shall we try here? Let us see that. Okay. Again, before we switch to the some few examples to understand this with examples, what do we do now? We try to understand types of if here. If can be categorized again into three types: simple if, multiple if, nested if. So if you talk about types of if, now you got an idea about what is if, what is indentation, okay, what is the execution flow of if, all that we had a clear picture now, right? We get a clear idea about that. Now coming to this, another important thing is types of if. So we have how many types of if here? Three types: simple if, multiple if, nested if. Simple if is simple, friends. We just have only one if here. That is simple if. Multiple if means more than one if. Nested if means if inside if. That is called nested inside if. In this way, we have three different types of if in Python. Okay, same thing for C, CPP, and Java and C Sharp. Okay, now, excuse me. We have one if. So, okay, sorry. Let's talk about simple if. Simple if means we have just one if, that's all. So we can consider this as a simple if. Okay. And here it says whether this condition is true or false. And if the condition is true, this statements or block gets executed. Else this is skipped. Right? That is simple if here. Okay. Now let us see the execution flow here. Program to find greatest of two numbers. Let's see that now. So what do we do right now? Let's open PyCharm. Let's do a small program for this if thing. I do one thing. Are you good till this part, friends? All of you are clear? Whatever we have discussed till this, any, all of you are fine? Can I just get an S from you? Is this clear for everyone? Oh, thanks for confirming. Right. So we have three different types of if here, right? So let's get into the testing mode. So what I do is I create one new folder again just for making sure directory and then put here decision making statement so that all programs will be segregated. Okay. So now I am adding a program in this new Python file and then so I'm just adding greatest.py. Okay. So let me add it. So I can close this. These are not needed unnecessary disturbance here. So closing them. Now, if I should apply this simple if means just one if. Simply speaking, just one if statement in a program. Okay, is simple if. Okay, now I just want to test a small program here for this. Okay, what do I do now? Let us try what is that greatest of two numbers. What shall we do? Greatest of two numbers. This is one thing. If you want to add comments, the other approach is triple quotes. And you can say what is that greatest of what shall I say, two numbers. Anything should be fine. Comments is very good thing to add in the code. Always make sure what is that, friends. Comments is always a good thing to add in the program. I'm trying to increase this thing a little bit, the size of this editor. Mm. This is visible to all of you, right? Just checking to increase this size. Okay. Font size here. If you see, we can increase this font here from, let us just try to increase it to 15. Huh? Okay. Let's say okay. I think now it's slightly bigger now. Okay. Now if you see here, I have shown you how to add two different types of comments. This is a single line comment and this is multi-line comment. Comments means they are used to they are self-explainable statements which are ignored by the interpreter while executing. Interpreter ignores comments. It doesn't execute comments. Comments are for more providing more understanding to the developer community. So you build this program, someone else come and watch your program to get a quick understanding. Comments are a great useful entities. Okay, so now what do you do right now? You can choose whatever you want. Now, what shall I do to understand simple if? Okay, simple if means just one if. Simply, first declare two variables a equal to 10, b equal to 5. Now you test this program. So what is the syntax? Follow this syntaxes blindly. If you are very new to the programming, you don't need to do anything. Just follow syntax. What is syntax? If condition. So whatever you want to test, you take these brackets, put condition here. What are the statements you want under this if, just put it under if here. Okay, so if condition. So what shall I do now? If I want to check greatest of two numbers, we have learned this in school. This is elementary standard school mathematics again. If A greater than B, then what? We should say A is B. See, and the greatest advantage with PyCharm is the indentation is automatically provided by the PyCharm. It will take this indentation automatically. Okay, if it is a normal notepad, you have to be careful with indentation. But as it is sophisticated IDE, indentation is automatically taken by the PyCharm. So if I just declare the condition and then press enter, you can see here it's already providing indentation to me. So what shall I do? If this condition is true, means definitely value of A is bigger than B. So what shall I do in that case? I can simply say a print statement saying what is that print A is bigger than B. I should say this. And then what shall I say? Comma, I should print A. That's all. This is simple if. Just one if. Maybe if you ask me, suppose if A B is bigger, then what should I do, Manoram? Then you have to add one more if, or you can use if else. But now we are talking about if. So when you talk about if thing, we have to use only if structure. And that too simple if means only one if. In this case, if we have just one if, it is a simple if. And here we can test only one condition, or we can have at most one expression in this if. Here you can see here, right? Of course, if you want, you can combine multiple conditions in this one if. But the point is, we can test only one expression. Now here, what happens if this is true? This block gets executed. If this is false, this block is skipped. That's all. If it is false, means we don't have alternative statement added for simple if, because simple if means just one if. So this is a simple program we just created with simple if. So we are just testing greatest of two numbers. And I believe you should know the importance of indentation now. Once, if I create if statement, under this, if I want to add a block, it should have an indentation. If you see here, suppose if you ask me, Manoram, I don't want this indentation. I am removing this. I hate it. If you remove it, you can see here, run the program. Okay. So not this one. We have to run greatest. What happened here? See the error, indentation error. What is that you got here? Indentation. Expected an indented block. Then what should you do? Push this print statement into the, better just use tab. That's more than easy for you. Then it has pushed into the if block. It pushed into if statement. And this becomes an if block. Similarly, you can add how many other print statements, or you can add any logic under this if block, and then you can test it. So now you run as greatest. You can see A is bigger than B, because if you look at the execution flow. So if you see here, let me just, what shall I do? I am applying this, I'm running in what mode here? Debugging mode now. So go to the run, debug, click on, or debug greatest. Directly you can choose debug greatest. So what do you do right now? If you want to have a clear understanding about line by line execution, you have to start debugging. Now you can see in memory, at memory level, what happened. So your interpreter created these variables A and B. By the time it come to this condition here, if you see here, A is created in memory, B is it's showing these variables here. And then these are all special variables which belongs to your Python program created by the interpreter. Among that, there is something you can observe clearly. This is something main method here. So name main because you are maybe if you are a traditional C and C++ programmers, and if you look at this Python program, we don't have any main method included in the program. But still, if you ask me a question, do you have main in this Python or not? Yes, main is implicitly declared by your Python. If you see here, we are all the statement by default gets inside to the main thing. So that's why if you see here, it is showing this as a main. So the execution again here also starts from main. So main is implicitly there in Python. Okay. So you don't need to worry much about it. It will be declared by it. If you want to explicitly declare main, even we can do that. I'll show you that in some programs. Okay. But this is a quick idea. So we are just debugging the program to understand line by line execution. First, what happens? These variables are loaded. We can call them as these are global. In fact, here now, because this can be accessed throughout this file. So now we can call them as global variables here. And if you declare something in this if block, they becomes local to that if block. Okay. If you declare something inside a function, they become local variables. So first this variables gets loaded, then the execution starts from this if here. So now what shall we do? We have to test line by line. How do you test line by line here? So we have a couple of options here at the left side of this window. So one is a step over means if you want to just skip something, you can say step over. Step into means getting into the line by line, and here step into my code. Again, this is similar to that only. And step out means if you want to get out from there, you don't want to again go there, then you have to use this. And then the last one, run to cursor. Maybe this is something which I didn't apply, but going to some cursor thing. Okay. Now what is needed for me? Step into. This should be fine for me. Click on this. Now, if you see what happened here, the condition is true. That's why the control entered into this if block. You can see here. This is how you should debug your program. This is what quite happens in a real time. You have to put a debugger here. For that, you don't need to do anything. Bring your mouse pointer here and click here. That's all. Wherever you want to put debugger, put a debugger point there and then go to the run and then apply debug that program. Then your program runs in debug mode. Once that starts in debug mode, then you have to come here. If you want to go line by line, then you have to say step into. Okay, so you say step into, then if the condition is true, you can see that clearly the flow is visible. You can observe the control is inside the block. And then again, one more step. The execution is completed and then we got the output here. Suppose you change the values. Let's have change of values. I just took A as 10 and B as 50 and then I just go to the run and then say run debug this one. Again, the program started in debug mode and it has loaded this variables and it's waiting at the condition to continue with the next statements. Now you have to apply this thing here, debugging options. So again, I want to test line by line, then click on step into. This time you don't see anything happening here. So as this condition 10 greater than 50 is false, it is skipped from execution. So we don't see any output here. And the execution of your program is completed. So this itself says that what is that? What this says? This condition is false here, so it doesn't execute the block. And you cannot you didn't see anything control going into the block this time. In the previous execution, you see that control moved to the block, getting inside the block. But this time, you don't see control going into the block. So this is a quick idea about so many things we have learned in this just a few minutes of time. One, we understood how to test a simple decision-making statement, which is simple if. Second thing, we have seen how to debug your program. Third thing, we have seen how to use these options. Just play with them, play around. That's all. Automatically you get familiar. Programming is nothing but just sit and play with that code and play with these options, play with this IDE. Automatically you get familiar. You don't need to be intelligent for that. All this comes with practice. If you are saying, I don't know programming, I am weak in maths, so what? Just keep trying, that's all. Right? So that's a quick idea about a simple if program. All of you are good now, right? I think you guys have tested and you also have tried this debugging mode, right? Right. So all of you are clear now. Can I get an S from all of you? At least few of you, if you can confirm. I think I can switch to the next topic, multiple if. Okay. And thanks for quick response. So, what is the next thing now? So we got a clear picture about simple if. And again, I told you, right? Still, if you don't understand or if you didn't hear or if you missed it, you don't need to worry. One thing, you have this recording. Second thing, you can stay back after this session and you can understand that and then you can, you can leave the session. So you have all that help here. Try to please use that. Now multiple if. So now what is multiple if? More than one if, right? For that, do we need any great technical knowledge? Simple if means one if. Multiple if means more than one if. It might be two if statements, three if statements, four if statements, five if statements. How many ever if statements we want, that many ever ifs we use. That's multiple if. But it again, can I use how many ever I want? Means this is not a buffet. Right? If you go to a buffet, you have many dishes, right? You can eat whatever you want. But in programming, it's not like that. It depends on your logic. How many ifs you want depends on logic. If you want one if, so it depends on the kind of logic you are solving, and sometimes we need two if blocks, three if blocks, four if blocks. That's all. Depends on logic. We choose how many if blocks we want. Okay. Anyhow, so what is this multiple if? More than one if here, simply speaking, more than one if. That is it. Syntax is almost same. We don't have big difference. You have here the syntax, right? If you see here, we already have multiple if syntax. You see first one if statement and then after that another if statement. After that one more if, one more if, one more if. How many ever you want, you can declare that many if statements. And what is the execution flow? Here, every condition, every if condition is checked here. Don't think like if this is true, then this is skipped. Or if this is true, this is skipped. In multiple if, each and every condition is validated. So the best word we use for this, for this decision making statements is validation. What decision making statements does? They does validation. So if you look at here, so we have multiple conditions. What your compiler or interpreter, here in Python it is interpreter. Each and every condition is validated. And if this condition is true, that if block gets executed. Else move to the next if block. Again it will validate this. If this condition is true, then it will execute this if block and move to the next if. Likewise, what it does, it checks each and every condition, friends. Okay, and then if condition is true, that if block is executed, else it will move to the next if block until all the if blocks in that construct is checked or validated. Got it right, friends? So let's do a quick check on this program now. So we just did this greatest of two numbers using simple if. Okay, next one, let's add one more program, new Python file. We can modify this, but to be more clear with programs, I'm adding one more Python file. So greatest using what I'm just taking as a multiple if, so that we understand this gives this gives a clear picture for us with what kind of if statement we are testing the program. Okay. Now same program you can copy and paste this time. You don't need to waste much time now. Excuse me. Okay. Then this time we need to validate both two cases. This program can have two cases, two different validations. When A is bigger than B, that is one validation. Second validation is when B is bigger than A, that is second validation. You can try anything of your choice. So how many ifs are needed now? When you have multiple conditions, then multiple ifs are needed. I have two different validations I need to apply here. So that's why I need two if statements. Then what do I do now? I just take one more if here, then add it under this if. This is multiple if. Don't apply indentation for second if. This all ifs has to be under same level. Only the statements inside if has to be in different level. Now I just take it, tested, validated first condition. And again, I need to do validation for second condition. If P greater than A, then change this print statement. This you have to take care. I see in the beginning sometimes learners what they do is they keep this as is, but this is more meaningful when you add more meaningful statements here. Okay, so your editor doesn't do these things by itself. You have to take care of all this, strings. So here, based on your condition, your output statement should change. So you have to modify this. This time, if this condition is true, that means definitely B is bigger than A. Then you have to change B is bigger than A. And then change your value which you are printing here. Don't print A here, but print B here. Okay, so this is a quick idea. This is a simple program to demonstrate multiple if here. Again, if you want to validate, you can put a debugger here, if you can see here. Then test the execution flow. You can run it directly. Right click and just say run multiple if. You got B is bigger than A. Why? So it will test first if, but this condition is false. Why it's false? 10 greater than 50 is false, friends. So this block doesn't get executed. Then it comes here. 50 greater than is true. Then it executes this if block. Then what is that? B is bigger than A, and then this gets printed, which is 50, which is the biggest here. 50 is the biggest. So the execution happens according to your if blocks and conditions. So that's normal execution. Suppose if you want to debug and if you want to see the execution flow of multiple ifs, just put a debugger at the beginning of this. Okay, and then go to the run and then simply say debug greatest multiple if. Now it will wait here. Now is this condition true or false? You know very well. Is this true or false? It's false. And control doesn't get into this block. Maybe you can check here. If you check here, step into. If it is true, it will step into this block. If it is false, it won't. So execute it. Now you see it jumped from first if to second if, skipping the execution of this if block here because the condition is false in case of first if block. Now it came to the second if block. Again, just do the debugging. Again, go to the next step. Now this condition is true so that the control has entered into the block and then again step into. Now the execution is completed and you can see the output here. B is bigger than A, that is 50. So this is how you can debug your programs and you can improve your skills of debugging. This is also very important when you are in a real-time programming. Okay, I hope this is clear for all of you friends. So you can continue from this debugging because I just shown you how to debug for a couple of programs. You can try this when maybe if a new kind of thing comes, I'll show you how to debug each and every program so that you get familiar with debugging as well. Okay, so that's about multiple if. All of you are clear and good. And See, you can test with me parallelly. So you don't need to wait until I say test it, because you can do that along with me, because we have a lot of time. Okay. While I am clearly explaining, you can just test that code and get a clear picture. So this is a quick idea about if and multiple if. There is one more, what we call nested if. And you can try all these programs as well. See, greatest of two numbers, check whether a number is even or not. Write a program to check whether an year is leap or not. Write a program to find greatest of three numbers with multiple if. Can you quickly try these programs now? I'll also help you to, try this. Maybe you can try these programs I am adding in the chat box. Okay. Test your, try these programs. Just take 1 or 2 minutes and apply these programs. I am trying to solve this meanwhile. You can keep trying, friends. Okay. Let me just show you. So what is the next program I should check here? Check whether a number is even or not. You can simply try this. What is that? If here in this program, what I do is let me add just one more new program. New by escape. No need of this. New Python file, even or, and then multiple. The best thing is you can create again a subfolder for each if and multiple if and nested if and elif, all that if else, so that it gives a clear picture. I think that should be a best option. Okay, but anyhow, let's continue even or not, and then with the multiple if. Now just take one number, one variable. If a percentile 2 equal to 0, because This is an even number, right? You have to divide this with 2. So then what you have to do? Print A is even. Okay. And then if you want, you can print that A itself. Okay. That's one thing. Else, one more if A percentile 2, one option is not equal to. So not equal to 0, then A is odd. And then you can print that A. So these are the two different if statements we can declare in the program. One is if, the another one is one is what is this here? Comparing whether it is even or not. The other one is validating if it is odd or not. So that's how you have to do this. So here, if what is even number? If it is divisible by 2 and remainder equal to 0, that's even number. So we did that. Okay. And if this condition is true, then we have to this block gets executed. Next one, second one is validating for odd. If it is not equal to 0, if A percentile 2, you are trying to divide with 0 with 2, and then if it is not equal to 0, then it's odd number. There is another way for this. Instead of saying not equal to 0, you can also say equal to 1. You can choose whichever you are comfortable. But the second one is more recommended, but still you can follow whatever is easy for you to understand. So, but thing here is you can either say not equal to 0, or you can say the other option is equal to 1. This is also allowed to test for odd number. Okay. So now we are good. So this is just gives you a quick idea how to check whether a number is even or odd. Okay, now run this. 10 is even without any doubt. If you run it, you get output as A is even. Suppose you take 11. Okay, run this. A is odd. So got it right. So this is how we have to create programs to validate your conditions to solve your problems. So we did for even or not. Again, you can try for leap or not. I will show you for greatest of 3 numbers with multiple if. Let's try this. Greatest of 3 numbers with multiple if. How do you test it? Let me show you. So this is again, I have to add a comment. I forget to add for the previous one. So what is this? This is a even or odd. Leave it like that. Let's create one more program here. So what is that? Python file, and then great of 3. Let it be like that. Okay, now take three variables. A equal to 10, B equal to 5, C equal to 3. Something like it's up to you. What values you should assign to variables is your choice. Okay, now what shall we do now? We have to check the conditions, validate the conditions to see which is the biggest of 3 numbers. Whether A is bigger, B is bigger, or C is bigger. Okay, so now what shall we do now? How many if blocks are needed now? 1 if block, 2 if block, 3 if blocks. To check greatest of 3 numbers, we need 3 if blocks here. We have to compare A with B and A with C, and B with A and B with C, C with A, C with B. If you want to get greatest of 3 numbers, if you want to validate it properly, then you need 3 if blocks. And each if block has 2 conditions concatenated. So one comparing some x variable with y and y variable with x. Okay, we have to compare A with B and A with C. Again, vice versa. B with A, B with C. Again, C with A, C with B. So you need 3 blocks, and your condition comes like this. If A greater than B and sorry, here this is Python, right? Do use and keyword. And if you just say A greater than B, it's not enough. it's not sufficient, then you have to say A greater than C, and then what is that? You should say print A is big. Of 3. If you want, you can add more also. That's fine. Yeah. This is one statement, one if statement. Okay. Second thing, we have to add one more block here. So you have B greater than A and B greater than C. This is second if block. And third if block, C greater than A and C greater than B. This is third if block. Excuse me. In this way, what is that here? We have 3 if blocks. What is the difference? We have 3 if blocks. Okay, so what shall you do right now? You have to run this program. So what is the output? Which if block is going to be true here? The first one without any doubt. Even though the other 2 if blocks are validated, as the condition is false here, these if blocks are skipped from execution. But this first if block is true, so this block gets executed. So we see that A is big. Right? You know the execution flow of if, right? Only if condition is true, then that block gets executed. So now what happens? You can quickly run this and you can see definitely A is the biggest value and this validation gets succeeded. Now if you run this greatest of 3, you can see here. Now this time in this program, this is a little, it's having multiple components inside this. One is you are seeing that how to use, what is that, how to add multiple ifs. That is one scenario. Second scenario is how to take multiple conditions in an if block. That is second scenario. And third scenario, how to apply logical operators while combining multiple conditions. That is the third scenario. Okay, this gives you more elaborated idea of applying your basics so far what you have learned. So here and fourth scenario, again, adding your comment. What is that? You can say greatest of the, don't forget to add comments, greatest of 3 numbers. Make this as a good habit. Every time you create program, if someone sees or not, make sure you add a comment to the program, even though you are just doing a testing in your code. Okay, you are doing self-testing. Still, I recommend you to keep adding your comments in the code. That is very much a good practice. Okay, so greatest of 3 numbers. Maybe still, if you want to make more clear, so you can say that what is that? Variable declaration. You can just make more and more sense by adding more better comments in the code. Okay, and then here validating, we can simply say validating conditions. So like that, adding a, this comments add more visibility to your code. Okay, it makes more clear. It gives more clarity to others. That's it. This is a quick idea about your program. We just tested for A. Maybe you can try give a bigger value for B, and then you can run this code, and you can see here the see still this has a big flaw in the code, right? Why there is a flaw? This statements, this strings has to be modified. Even though my all everything is correct, still this output doesn't make sense. Still, I am not good. So what shall I do now? I should just change this B is big, and here also you should change this C is big. So again, see if your output is not showing it properly, if it is not correct, then there is something problem in your code and you have to fix that. Okay, so just executing program and getting output is not enough. Again, what is that? If you are getting a proper output is very important. So you have to make sure that you are taking utmost care to get a proper output and a meaningful output. It's not just executing program. It's also about bringing out perfect output. Okay, so now at this time when we run this, everything should be fine. B is big and the statement shows B is big here. And the third case, I give 300. Excuse me. And then C is big. You can see here. And but again, there is a flaw in this code if you see here. What is that? I didn't modify the values here. Why? Because it has to be B here. Again, this is a big blunder which I just left as is. Okay. So now I modified my values here. This time, this is a perfect program. So in the last couple of cases, what is that? My program is not a valid one. Now we have C is big 300. Now if you give some 500 here, B is big, we get 500 here. This is multiple if. Okay. So that's all about if statements here. What is that? Simple if and multiple if. Let's switch to the nested if. All of you are good friends. I think you got enough time to understand all these programs. Okay. Next one, nested if. What is nested if? So after understanding all this, definitely you should have a bigger picture about this if now. Nested if means if inside if. You can have multiple nested if statements. It's not just only one nested one if inside if. If you want, you can have one more inside this second if. So nesting means one inside the another, one if inside another if, and you can keep on adding how many ever ifs you want. This nesting can keep on growing. It's up to you how many ifs you want in the this particular nested if block. So this is another kind of if construct. So now the question is what is the execution flow? Execution flow is simple. So this is inner block, or this is something inside. So if condition 1 is true, then only it will go to the condition 2. If condition 2 is true, then it goes to the condition 3. Got it right? So in that way, what is that, friends? This is nested if. What happens in nested if? Only if outer if is true, then you get into the inner if. And if this is true, then you get into something else. So that's about nested if. Now we will rewrite the same program, greatest of three numbers with nested if. So how do I apply nested if to rewrite this program? So instead of using logical operator, this time what we do is, what is that? Right, we'll do one thing. Let me add one more new Python file. Same program will copy and paste. So greatest of three, and then underscore nested if. You can create folder for every kind of programs. Each type of programs, create one folder and put those programs inside that. That's the best practice. Okay, Python file. Come on. Okay, copy this now. You can try parallelly. Don't wait for me to say try it. Create your programs, test your programs, understand better, ask questions. Okay, now let's create this as is, but rewrite this program with nested if. Okay, how do you rewrite this? Simple. Here we have one if, so add one more if like this. Push this if into this thing. Now if you see here, we have two if conditions instead of that and operator, logical operator. We have split that if into two. So one is the outer condition A greater than B. The second one is split into the inside to the first if, that is A greater than C. But if here this nested if make more sense. Why? Because if A, we can conclude that A is big if both conditions are true. First, it will validate A greater than B. If that is true, then only it comes to A greater than C. Even if that is true, then only that print gets executed. So the same program which you have written with the relational operator, sorry, logical operators. So which you can combine with logical operator, you can rewrite that with the nested if by removing that logical and just pushing this, splitting that into the multiple blocks like this, nested blocks like this. Okay, so this is a simple way to rewrite that previous program with the nested if. So again, same thing you have to follow here. So this is a simple practice where you can choose nested ifs without using any logical operators. This is another approach. So you can try similarly, you can try, many things. It's not like there is no limitation for coding. Okay. There are many ways to do this. So we have three different blocks indented properly. If you see here, the indentation part, observe carefully. So first if, okay, starts as usual without any indentation because that is the starting one. And second if has a proper indentation and that print has again properly indented. This indentation is very important. So this space says that this is a space at second level of indentation. And all that statements which you want to be at second level has to be indentated with same space. Again, this is at the third level. If you want to have anything more inside this, inner if, then all that statements has to be indentated with the same level of space. So in that way, so what is second block, what is third block, what is fourth block means it all, we can understand that or we can get a clear idea based on the spaces we are indentating. So each inner block have have a different level of indentation. Okay, so that from that you can easily understand which is second block, which is third block, which is fourth block. I hope this is clear for all of you friends. Now, the second other important thing is validating. All of you are little curious, like if you are just new for this. So what do you do right now? Right click, run. So invalid syntax somewhere. So here I forget this colon. See, I think one important thing in Python is if condition is fine, I forgot to talk about colon and everything. This if construct with colon here in the beginning, colons are very important. I forget to mention this. So here, if you end with colon means that's a clear syntax. So here you also end with syntax. This kind of blocks, loop constructs or decision making statements or classes or functions. Everything you should put a semicolon. That is very important. You have to declare these things with the semicolon and then you have to declare statements under that. Just a minute, friends. Yeah, yes, friends. Let's continue. I hope this is clear, right? If anyone didn't observe that thing, please add this colon if you are seeing errors. And if you are getting a question, I am following everything what I'm seeing here, but I am getting error means you might be missing this colon. This colon has a lot of priority in Python. This kind of code constructs like if or while or for or class or function or anything, when this headers has to be ended with colon. We should end each declaration with this colon here. That is very important. Okay. So that's why accidentally I missed this and I got this. I got an error here. If you see here. Now I think we are good with everything. Now let's run this. Now you can see here B is big. Okay. Maybe you can change your values and you can test for other things like, now definitely C is big. You can run this. Right. C is big. And then because the value of C is bigger here. And now you can give some bigger value from A. Now run, right click and then say run. A is big. Understood now? So this is a quick idea how to write your program with the nested if statements. Understood now? Is this clear for all of you friends? Somebody is asking a question. Yeah, thanks for giving me that. Okay, this is nested if. This is a nested if. Right? Any more questions? All of you tested this? This is all about, so all about what is this, friends? About if statement. About if here. What is that? About one is simple if, second one is nested if, third one is a multiple if. Okay, so you can see here about simple if, multiple if, and then third one is a nested if. This is not elif, it should be nested if. Okay, now shall we switch to the next topic before, let's try to complete as much as possible so that we can switch to the control statements. I mean, this loop control statements in the next weekend. Next weekend is going to give a clear picture about how to start with loops and how to add some logics, all that. So it's going to be a very good session, right? If you are having any confusion with logic or anything, okay? So anyhow, let's switch to the next topic, if else. What is if else now? So we have completed if now. We have seen how to create programs with simple if, multiple if, and nested if. Now let's get in touch with let's move to the next topic, that is if else. What is it? If else. Again, it has all these three forms: simple if else, multiple if else, nested if else. Right? Even you can create these many forms of if else. So what do you do right now? So if else is much more simplified form of multiple if. Okay. So if you have two if statements, if you want to just simplify with another constraint, that is if else. But it has only, we can only validate two different scenarios. That's all. If you want more to validate more scenarios, either you have to go for nested if else, or we can apply elif, or we can apply multiple if else. Okay. So if else is much more simplified, but everything is if only. Again, if you ask me, you are not doing something new. And here you are using just if itself, friends. It is an extension to if. It is not what is that replacement to if. This we are extending if with if else. That's all. We are not replacing it. Okay. So this is if else here. What is the execution flow? Here we have two blocks here. One is if and the other one is else block. And the execution flow is if the condition is true with if, that statements under if gets executed. Else, it will move to the else block. And you don't put the condition under else. This is a default construct along with if. If some condition is false here, by default it goes to else part. That's all. Okay. And you don't put any condition here. I see sometimes, in the very beginning, some learners add some conditions here. Please don't do that. Okay, so that's a quick idea. This is actually a nested if else. We can remove that for now. So this is simple idea. Now, why don't we try these programs with a couple of programs with the if else? So what we do is create a new program, new Python file, and then greatest. Again, we are doing greatest with if else. Let's try this. So what do you do right now? You can just add a comment quickly. What shall we say? Greatest of two numbers. And then just take two numbers, 8 and B5, anything of your choice. It's not needed to be A and B only. Okay. Mm. And then if A greater than B. Okay, it's almost same. This if part doesn't change, whatever you have learned here. So print what you say A is big, and then you can simply say comma A. Now else, again, what is that you should do? Print B is big, comma B. Okay, so this is a quick idea, friends. How to, okay. how to test greatest of two numbers with if else. What is the execution flow? If condition is true here, if block gets executed. If condition is false here, then it will switch to else block. That is the default execution. We don't apply any condition with else here. Okay. Now 10 greater than 5 is true. If block is true, then execution of else block is skipped. So if you run this, you can see here A is big. Okay. Suppose you give B as 50. B as 50. And then you can see here B is big and then it's 50. So this is a simple program to test if else. And if you want to apply any debugger, just put a debugging point, go to the run and then just quickly say, I think we can do from right click also debug this one. And then just test this. This is true. And then what happened now? Is this sorry? This if is false, then you can see a steep jump. You can see a big jump from if block to else block because the execution of if block is skipped here as this condition is false. Okay, if condition is false with if block, then it will switch to else block. And then again, another one more check on this. Then the execution is completed. You can see the output. In this way, you can just quickly do the debugging for this program. Okay, this is if else. I hope this is clear for all of you friends. You can check. You can rewrite this if for these programs as well. Whatever we have tried earlier, write all these programs with the if else for a good practice. Okay. So if you wish, you can try it again. I'm just adding in the chat box. Try this again. Understood? So do all this, friends. Practice all this. This gives you a clear idea about how to start with programming, how to become, good programming learners. Right. So this is all about if else. Maybe if you want, you can try with the what is the next one? Multiple if else. Multiple if else means you can check multiple conditions like, now this is validating greatest of two. And similarly, if you want to check whether some number is even or not, you can add two different if else constructs. So that's how you can validate multiple, you can validate multiple conditions within one program. You can have multiple if else constructs. So that is multiple if, more than one if else. You can try that. I'm not doing it now. You can give a try for that. Okay. So what's there in that same program, right? This one, just simply what you do is just take this and then put here. Take one example, like you take A as your number to test for even or odd. Just simply say A percentile 2 equal to 0. Then A is even, simply speaking. Similarly, and then similar else B is A is odd. Simply you should say A is odd, then change that value of B to A here. We are done. This is multiple if. So we have two constructs. One is that this is 1, and we have another construct here. This is 2. We are validating two different conditions. This is validating greatest of 2. So, okay, what is this doing? This is validating greatest of 2, and this is validating even or not. Okay. So in that way, friends, you can see here. This is multiple if. So what's happening here? It is trying to check for what, friends? Both the greatest of two numbers and then even or not. So similarly, you can add one more if else block. So this is multiple if else blocks. So every if else block helps us to validate one kind of condition. So this is a quick idea. If you want to check it, right click and say run, and you can see here which is big and which is given. And we are seeing two different outputs. So that's multiple if. So and comes again nested if else. Nested if else is simple. Again, if else within if else. Suppose you see here. You want to find greatest of three numbers again. That is the best example to demonstrate nested if else. So you can see here. What you can do now, you can just try like this. So take one more number. I'm just giving all in one because I want to save some time. I don't want to waste your time and my time as well. So A10, B5, C3, C6, something like this. So this is what this is not greatest of three numbers, but greatest of two, but greatest of three. Sorry. Okay, here we are now doing what greatest of. Now what shall I do now? Here the condition is A greater than B and A greater than C. The conditions stays the same. It doesn't. We don't have a big change with conditions. And here again B greater than C here. Okay, and then some changes to this print statements. Otherwise, you don't see meaningful output statements. It becomes a big mess up. So would be here. And then the third one is C is big. We have to change this, of course. A is big, B is big. You can add something like A is bigger than B. All it's all up to you. What kind of prints you want, what kind of statements you want, you can choose. C is big. Then what? Print C. So this is about nested if else. You can see you have if else. Again, in that if else, you have another if else. Okay. Again, inside that, you can have one more. Got it, friends? This is a quick, idea about nested if else. If else within another if else. Okay. Now, what do you do right now? Let's test it. What is the execution flow? Obviously, right? If this is true, then the else block is skipped. Then if this is false, it comes to else block and again get into the if block. And again, if this is true, so level 1, it will validate A. Level 2, it will validate B. And else, it will validate C. We have three different levels. First, for the first time, if this is true, then A is big. We don't need to validate anything. Else, we come here and validate B. Maybe you can ask me, you are not comparing B with A. At the first level itself, we are comparing A with B, and even B gets compared with A. So you don't need to do another validation here, which is not needed, unnecessary validation. So you can optimize that. Okay, that's a good practice. So that's why once this is gone, then it comes to the second level. It will try to validate B. Even this is false, it will validate C. So got it right? Now let's run the code. So here the value of A is big. So we should see A is big. Suppose I give B as 50 and then run this and then run it. You can see here B is big. Again, suppose I give C as 600 and then run this and you should see C is big. Okay, 600. So this is nested, what is we call nested if else. Like we have seen a nested if. So this is nested if else. So that's it, friends. So what else we should do after this? Elif. The same program, we can rewrite this with the elif statement. So this nested if else, we can convert to elif ladder, else if ladder, what we call in C, CPP, Java and C Sharp. So here, what do we call this? This is called as the elif ladder now. So how to convert this program to elif? Simple. So just bring this and remove this. That's all. So this is elif. You can add how many or elif blocks you want. It's not just two or three or four. You can add how many or elif blocks you want for validating different kinds of logics. But for this requirement, what we have, one elif is enough. We don't need multiple. So what do you do right now? You just need to convert the previous else if multiple if else. like this. So this is elif ladder. What happened here? You just add if as usual, and then you apply elif, else if. If this is false, it comes here and validate this. And if this is false, it will go to another else if ladder. And it will do the validation step by step like that. Okay. And finally, we get else. This is optional. If you don't have this else, nothing happens. This is an optional else here. It's not needed. Okay. So if you want, you can add it. If I say it's not needed, means it doesn't mean that you can avoid it. If you want, you can add else at the end. Or if you want, you can remove else at the end. It's up to you. It depends on your need and necessity. Okay, friends. So that's idea about elif ladder. Elif ladder is similar to your multiple if else. If you simplify multiple if else, it becomes elif ladder. So this is another kind of construct in Python. Instead of else if, we have elif here. Okay. Now, what do we do right now? Let's test this. What happens? What is the execution flow? If this is true, execute this if block and skip the rest. Else, come here. Validate this condition. If this is true, execute this if block and skip the rest. This is the execution flow. So right click and then run. C is big here. That is perfect. And then you, this has some 5,000. Right click and then run. B is big. And this one, just give it as some 10,000. Right click and then run. So you can see here A is big. So this is working pretty good. So we don't have any issues with this. Which one, friends? Elif ladder. This is working crystal clear. Okay, that's a simple idea about all these decision making statements. This session gave us a lot of understanding about decision making statements. Different forms of decision making statements like if, how many forms of if are there? How many forms of if else are there? How many forms of this elif is there? We just only one form of elif, just saying. Okay. And we have seen programs for every construct. This is elif ladder. What elif does here? This is the condition syntax. If condition, elif condition 2, elif condition 3. And it keeps going. You can add how many elifs you want. Okay. Somebody. So for this scenario, we need this else. For now, we need this else. Else, at least you should put one elif. If you don't want else, at least you have to add elif. Okay. You cannot just blindly put, we cannot put blindly print here. We need a validation. Definitely, it has to be under certain validation. If we just put it again, so it doesn't work in all cases. So you test it multiple cases, right? So blindly keeping L print here because someone Shankar is asking a question. If you just print here, this is not a right approach because this prints always gets executed even if right that elif ladder is validated or not. This prints always gets executed. So this is not a right way of adding print here. It has to be connected to that elif ladder. Then only it gives us right output. Else we don't get right one. See, if you see here, let me give you a clear picture now. So A is bigger one, right? And now I just keep this print here. You don't remove else unless if it is meaningful. Okay. So now run this. Now you should see just A is big, but this time you are seeing C is big, which is not a if you validate this output, this is not correct output because we should see only one, not multiple. Got it, friends? We should see not we should not see multiple outputs. We should see only one output here. Okay, you got it, Shankar. So means what? See, is 600 a bigger one? No. Then why are we seeing the 600 here? Which because we our code is not written in a right way. It is not written properly. Why? It has to be connected with this elif ladder or this if constructs. So in this case, else is needed, Shankar. Without this, you might go wrong. Okay, maybe it might work for one or two, in very few cases, but it doesn't mean that you should use it like that. Even though it works blindly, in some cases, it is not at all recommended. It is not at all a right way to directly add prints at the end when it is part of some execution. Okay, okay, I think it should be clear, right? That's the simple idea. Understood now, friends? So this is Elif ladder. You can try more examples with elif ladder. That's it. So today we'll stop here with this completing all these kinds of constructs with the if and multiple if else and then elif ladder, all this stuff. In the next session, next weekend, we try with we'll complete on we'll completely focus on this loop control statements, everything, and we do certain logic processing. That will be also a good session if you are having confusion with python or any programming language basics. Okay, or if you are a new learner, right? So it's actually a question time. Maybe what I do is I will allow to ask questions if you have any questions. Okay. So thanks, stream. We are done here for today. Any questions you can ask me, stay back and we can discuss. Any questions? Anyone wants to ask any questions? The mic is enabled. You can ask questions if you have any. Okay. Only today it's very clear, Vijay. Not every day.
Of course, every day. Today,
No, I'm just kidding. Don't take it the other way.
yeah, I got it. I got it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day to everyone. I think seems like we don't have much questions today. So practice well and come back. That's all.
Hello. 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 Mm. Hello.
Yeah, Harish, do it.
Yeah, audible, right? Could you please allow me to share the screen? Presenter.
Let me just do that.
Yeah.
Uh, and sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sharing my screen. Uh, yeah, I just want to debugger because at the time I'm not because it is muted.
No
So
issues.
yeah, I just clicking on. So you are telling that debug option, right? So sorry.
Yeah, share your screen.
Ah, so this is I clicked on here and run. So this is the debug, right? I can click here.
1 minute, 1 minute. I'm coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it now.
So I'm going to run the debugger. So I can directly run and I can debug
Correct,
this.
correct, correct. Did you put debug point first,
And I
Shankar?
not no, I not put. So here,
Did you? Yeah, first one thing. Close this one.
okay, yeah,
Close this
close it.
one.
Yeah.
Put a debugger at line 5 because that is the beginning of construct, right?
Ah, three, right?
So
Okay, yeah.
uh, not 3 at 4.
At four, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Put a debugger.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How to put debugger? Go to the
This,
left side. No, 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 no. We should add a debugger point. Put your cursor there and click at the. There is some space after line 4, right? After 4, you have some
so,
space between if and 4.
yeah, 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 yeah.
There, that's how you should put a debugger point first.
Okay, 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 okay.
If you put this debugger breakpoint, this is called breakpoint. I forget to tell this today. Maybe I'll tell in next week session. Put a
Mm-hmm.
breakpoint. If you put a breakpoint here, then you can start debugging. Unless you do you add these breakpoints, your debugging doesn't have any impact. Okay.
Okay, okay. So now we have put the debugger, right? By clicking
Now go,
between.
go to the go to the you can right click and say debug, or you can go to run and say debug anything. Right click and then say debug greatest of do that.
Okay.
Now it starts in debugging mode and you can see all the variables are loaded there and you do have special variables there created. And then now step into yes you can see there
Okay.
for
This one.
just a minute before you
Ah,
do debugging. Before you do debugging, you should have a clear idea about your validation. Is A greater than B? What is the value of A here?
10.
10 greater than 20 is false. When you go to the
Fall.
when you do that debugging, it will skip there. You can check there now. Click on that
Mm.
step into that one. Step into.
So
Yeah.
that's what it came a process finished with exit code 0.
Can you scroll down? Somewhere I think something is missing. Can you scroll down? Can you scroll down?
But yeah, yeah. Only
I
this
think
one only.
can you little go up? See, the code construct is not written properly, Harish. That elif has to be under if under this out if, not inside.
Okay, okay.
Elif.
Outer if this
This
one
elif.
outer else.
See at line 7.
8.
Bring it to the beginning. Line 7. No, that is correct only. No
Lines.
problem.
Okay, okay. Yeah, to beginning. Okay,
That is
got it.
actually you put it as another inside that block, and this also has to come to the beginning.
No,
Line
no,
language.
actually, I want to do like with if under if greater than say 5, right? I want to write elif in that actually.
Okay. Then if
So
shows, then push it inside. No need of elif.
no need. Okay, okay. What I mean to say, like just is normal check, not exact logic. Just
Hmm.
a greater than b. First, I need to check. After that, if it is true, then I am checking if a greater than c.
Okay.
So
Then
after
C is big.
within
Okay.
a greater than C, b, suppose if a
Correct. Correct.
greater than
I got your point. I got your point. Then if C greater than A, C is bigger. Okay. Else B is bigger. That is fine. So now, yeah, here this is it's giving right result only. You see, depends on how you write your program, you get the output, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Here,
But I want to know like because I
saying
because
listen. Let me complete. Then you can come up with questions. Okay.
yeah, sure.
Let me finish, Harish. So
Yeah.
here, in the beginning itself, the condition is false.
Correct, correct.
Then all these are nested blocks, right? None of these conditions gets an opportunity to get executed, so you don't see anything. That is the problem. Okay.
Okay, yeah, yeah, got it, yeah.
This approach is not going to work. And that means what is the point here? This approach is not working. I think you have some. I got your idea. I got your idea. So as A greater than B is common for all everything, so you put one common here and then you put another filtered all other conditions as nested conditions. I understand this.
Yeah, correct, correct.
But your idea had is not fruitful, right? You can see here. You have to make sure that when you come up with this kind of approach, it is working. So you can do R&D on that again. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, got it.
Now
Yeah.
your questions. I did my discussion now. Now you can ask me.
Yeah, yeah. So I because the first condition is not satisfying, so it is not getting any this one.
So then obviously it is nested, right? All those nested.
Nested
Only if outer is true, then only come into the inner, right?
inner. Correct, correct.
So there is no possibility again. What shall I say, Harish? No possibility for getting executed for inner conditions, right?
Yeah, got it. Okay.
So that's the problem. Okay.
Got it. I will check it. Yeah,
You,
sure,
you
sure.
can do
So
R&D, not an issue. Okay.
if you want to put any breakpoint, then we have to between this like that we have to put another
Depends.
breakpoints.
Wherever a breakpoint means it starts your that debugging. Then based on that, if you want, you can add multiple or one should be fine at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you want, you can add multiple breakpoints. It's up to you. Okay.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Anyhow, I think I have shown number of debugging examples today.
Yeah. Yeah,
Even
just
even
standing writing the code and this one. So maybe I missed somewhere. While this one I just missed it like between the number and if I mean placing the cursor which gives the breakpoint that I missed
correct,
it.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
problem.
Got
No
it.
problem. I think you are good, right? You are good now,
Yeah.
right?
I'm good. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Harish.
Thanks.
Anything else? Somebody is
Nothing.
there. Okay, good
Nothing.
then. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sharing.